So hello, my name is Victoria Fisher and I'm a research trainee and PhD student at the Martin House Research Centre at the University of York. And today I'm going to be talking about a piece of work I did as part of my PhD, which is the experiences of fathers of children with a life-limiting condition, a systematic review and qualitative synthesis. So a little bit of background and how the review came about. We know that there's an increase in prevalence of life-limiting conditions in children and young people. And with this increasing prevalence comes a growing number of parents providing extensive care for their child at home, often with limited external support and often extending over many years. And there is a body of research that looks at the experiences of these parents, but fathers are underrepresented in parental samples, meaning that findings are likely founded upon the experiences of mothers rather than mothers and fathers. So initial scoping searches identified several father-only studies that had not yet been synthesised. So this is what we decided to do. So the aims of the review were to identify and synthesise qualitative findings related to the experiences of fathers of children diagnosed with a life-limiting condition. And this was in order to gain a deeper understanding of their experiences from their own perspectives and to identify future research priorities in this under-researched group. So to do this, we use qualitative evidence synthesis in the form of thematic synthesis. And thematic synthesis involves the coding of individual studies line by line to create a bank of codes, which are then grouped together to form descriptive themes, which are then synthesized further to form analytical themes. And the aim of thematic synthesis is to generate new interpretive constructs, explanations, or hypotheses. So the results are more than a sum of the individual studies. So in order to be included in the review, studies had to employ qualitative methods to look at the experiences of fathers of children diagnosed with a life-limiting condition as defined by a previously developed list of diagnoses. Mixed methods studies were included if qualitative data could be extracted, and we kept the inclusion quite broad as we suspected that there wouldn't be a substantial amount of father-only studies. Studies were excluded if they included the experiences of other family members, for example, mothers and siblings, or if they included the experiences of professionals. And this was a key decision made during protocol development in collaboration with our family advisory board, who felt that it was really important to capture fathers' unique perspectives in the absence of other perspectives. Database searches resulted in just over 4,000 unique results, of which 32 papers from 30 studies were eligible for inclusion. These studies were published between 1997 and 2019, with data collection occurring between 1978 and 2019. And these were UK, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Hong Kong, Sweden, and Brazil-based studies. The aims of the individual studies varied from looking at the lived experiences of fathers, resilience, perceptions of service provision, the influence of gender on experiences, and the influence of attachment style on experiences. And some studies just looked at the experiences of bereaved fathers. And these were fathers of children with a variety of conditions such as cancer, congenital heart defects, cystic fibrosis, neurological conditions, and genetic conditions. And the majority of the studies included fairly small sample sizes, usually between about 6 and 24. But combined, these studies reflect the experiences of 562 fathers. So now I'm going to talk about the results of the thematic synthesis, from which there are 4 analytical themes, and I will go through each theme one by one. So the first theme relates to the uncertainty that dominated fathers' accounts of their child's condition. And this was made up of 3 sub-themes organised temporally in the flow diagram in the bottom right-hand corner of this slide. And starts with this new uncertainty that was introduced pre-diagnosis, a period in which many fathers felt that they were fighting for information, and many had to wait a long time for their child's diagnosis to be confirmed, which exacerbated their uncertainties. And of course, this uncertainty wasn't resolved at diagnosis. It was transformed into uncertainties relating to the condition, its treatment, and the future. And this was also in combination with the shock and the trauma and the grief and disbelief that many fathers experienced at the time of diagnosis. Post-diagnosis, fathers describe adjusting to this uncertainty by taking control of aspects of their lives that they felt able to, a certain level of accepting the uncertainty. And this is highlighted in this quote, which is, "Just trying to live with it. The bottom line is, none of us know what's going to happen to us tomorrow anyhow." And this relates to the next theme that explores fathers' experiences of a new normal. And many fathers had to redefine what was normal to them. And it demonstrates the effects of their child's diagnosis in many aspects of their lives, from kind of day-to-day activities, their priorities and values, relationships with friends and family, their spirituality and plans for the future. And I've just selected 3 quotes as examples of the things that they discussed as kind of changing. "None of us might wake up in the morning. That's why we said we don't care what we do or don't do. We take a holiday once a year with the 2 kids. No one ever work longer hours. Life's too short. I feel that my relationship with my parents changed dramatically in the few months afterwards, because it's like they didn't seem to understand. They didn't seem to understand anything that I was going through." And finally, "It changed me a lot. As I was mentioning, I don't take life for granted as much as I used to. My perspective on life has changed dramatically. I definitely stop and smell the roses." So the third theme incorporates 2 concepts. The first concept is fathers' reluctance to share their emotions and concerns with others, sometimes due to a fear that this would cause distress for their family members, and feeling like they had to be strong and supportive. Also focusing on the needs of others as a means of deflecting their own concerns and feelings. The second concept is professionals' lack of recognition of fathers, not only in relation to their child's care, but in relation to fathers' own support needs. And this often left fathers feeling sidelined. Perhaps that healthcare settings are more attuned to the emotional needs of mothers, but this environment kind of reinforces that perception that fathers need to be strong and supportive. Fathers did discuss positive and negative aspects of their experiences in healthcare settings, but many did voice a need for more support. And these quotes just kind of demonstrate this and give us a bit of a picture of what it's like. Fathers experienced intense emotion. However, they describe themselves as alone, strong, and to themselves. Fathers also feel safe and recognised as an important member of the family when healthcare professionals not only give their time, but also stand by the father's side and help them fight for their family's right to get information and be together. The help the staff offered, even their talk, was all geared towards the mum. None of the professionals there could relate to me. And finally, one father described himself as a mushy rock, so wanting to be supportive and strong for his family, but also having kind of these emotional needs himself. So the last analytical theme relates to the role conflict experienced by working fathers. This is particularly important when we consider that parenting roles are much more dynamic than they have ever been, and a lot of fathers want to be more involved in their child's care. The majority of the fathers in this study were in employment, whether that was out of choice, their perceptions of masculinity and wanting to be a breadwinner, or it was to do with financial decisions, or just what worked best for individual families. Many fathers describe work as having a respite function, but some found it really difficult to balance their responsibilities at work and at home. Some found it really overwhelming and exhausting, kind of doing a full day at work and then going to the hospital and spending the night at the hospital with their child. And I think some of these quotes highlight some of these difficulties. I'm mostly just there to play with the ill child. Sometimes I feel guilty if I have a bad day at work or something like that, and she wants to play, and I'm tired or stuff like that. I sort of feel guilty in the back of my mind. I'm in sales. Do you think my customers want to hear, well, gee, my daughter's got a brain tumour? So I keep that inside. So out of my 200 customers, maybe 12 know about her. Yet another father sadly revealed that he had not been able to attend any appointments with his child for more than a year. So all of these themes together tell us about the experiences of these fathers. But what's not addressed in these studies in great detail is their own health and well-being, which is really important for identifying the content and level of support that these fathers may need. Therefore, the next step in this research will be to explore the health and well-being of these fathers using qualitative and quantitative methods. And this will give us a really in-depth understanding of their experiences and factors that influence the health and well-being of these fathers and their potential support needs. We will aim to recruit a really diverse sample of fathers, including those with primary caregiving responsibilities. And I've just included two final quotes here that kind of demonstrate this need, the need for this research. I don't ever recall anyone ever asking me, how are you taking this? I guess they just assumed I would be okay. I felt very alone. I guess you probably should be a support. I mean, I might have got really depressed and no one would have really picked it up. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to welcoming any questions or comments.